Welcome to the Barbell Nerds Podcast. My name is Sean, joined by my co-host, Will Ritzel. We're joined today by the Michael Chatman of Stanford University. Mike, thank you so much for spending the time with us today, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here with you guys.
Absolutely. Mike Chatman is the Associate Sport Performance Coach for men's basketball at Stanford University. I've known Mike for quite some time. I wanted to apologize to him again because I turned down an opportunity to intern under you up at Michigan, and if I would have done it, I probably wouldn't have met my wife. So I'm happy I passed, but at the same time, that would have been a pretty cool opportunity. So again, I've said this before, but I apologize for turning that
down. Hey, nothing's more important than family. So if that worked out, that's way better than some barbells, man.
Very cool. Mike, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got out to Stanford, your many stops along the way?
Yeah. So I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. A lot of strength conditioning coaches come out of that area. So I came through Coach Hatch, Gayle Hatch, coaching tree. I spent a little time all over the place. Probably our most impactful stops I would have to say are probably, spending 3 years of Coach Hatch, like working hand in hand with him. He really taught me the art of coaching. He's known for coaching the lifts, right? But the way he handles his athletes, how he goes about it, how he teaches, like the investment he has in you when you're actually in his program really meant a lot to me. I'm forever grateful for him for giving me the opportunity. It's funny. I sent out like 107 emails and 3 guys responded. And one guy connected me to another guy, sent me to Coach Hatch. And since from that point on, I've been hooked, man. I started there one day. He got me an internship the next week. And so I'll intern at Southeastern Louisiana from, I'd probably say about 10 to about 2. Then I drive 45 minutes down to Baton Rouge. And I intern with Coach Hatch from 4 to 8 p.m. every night. And I would coach anywhere from 12-year-olds to people who are 50 years old doing the O-lifts. And after he sit me down and we had some skull sessions, he talked to me and teach me about life and money and how to coach and how to get the most out of my athletes. From there, we stopped LSU to be there, and I got to see Coach Moffitt do his thing. That was how to run a room, how to do that stuff. And I would say those 2 men have given me the basis for what I do now. How to teach, how to run my room. And then from there, it's been so many other stops. I feel like it's obnoxious to talk about all of them, but I've been, I left there and I've been to a lot of schools with a lot of logos. And I think what I've learned over my time is that the logos don't mean as much. I've been grateful and blessed to have some amazing mentors, whether it's John Sanderson or Todd Wright, or I learned some things from Carlos Fingers, Emil Gant. I've worked for quality people who let me get in there, get my hands dirty, make some mistakes. And they let me hear about the mistakes for sure. But I think that's how we learn, and they let me be me. They didn't ask me to be anyone else but me. Fitz was huge for me. Talk about when Fitz hired me, he told me, when you get home, throw you the keys and you go to work. I walked in the door, he threw me the keys and I went straight to work. And so that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen anymore. You know what I mean? Like people don't get those opportunities like that anymore. So I'm extremely grateful and blessed for those men and women who've been so impactful to me along my way.
Very cool. Yeah, I know. I was lucky enough to intern under you for a little bit or a small period of time, and you've always made a huge impact on me just based off, like you said, the presence of the weight room. You always had a demeanor around you. You always had a goal of the day or what you wanted to accomplish for your teams, and that was one of the first things that you had mentioned when we were in our intern meetings way back long ago. And everyone talks about like how to do core lifts, how to do the deadlift, how to do squat, everything like that. But you kind of said, you taught us interns how to coach, how to feel out the room, how to make adjustments, and how to just own the environment. And how has that how has throughout the multiple stops that you've had, has that kind of your principles or philosophies on that, has that evolved obviously from team to team, but like what has been your biggest challenge, or what team, what sport, what has been your biggest challenge in doing so?
I think my biggest challenge has been working such a large variety of sports. I've worked 25 plus sports to date. I mean, everything from fencing to high level football to high level basketball to, I mean, field hockey. And I think the more sports you work with, the better coach you are. In a world where everybody wants to be a guy, I'm a this guy or that guy. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just a strength coach who happens to work with basketball. Don't call me a basketball guy. I love my field hockey athletes. Women's ice hockey is one of my favorite sports. Volleyball is by far one of my favorite sports. I love the game of basketball. I love that too. But my philosophy and everything I do starts with the culture first. And people talk about culture and this and that and all that stuff, and you know, people can say, "Oh yeah, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." Da, 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 da. At the first, when you first come in, it's about getting results early, and that's what gets the buy. And I come in and I evaluate, and the first week I do what I call how to work. And how to work as in how to go about the room, how to change the plates, how to load the plates, how to move around the room. And I don't care about anything else other than that first week, because everything else we're doing is so simple in the weight room. And the second week I actually work, and I start to get into technical proficiency and my GPP stuff. And I start to lay down the foundation for where I'm going programming wise. But that culture stuff is the thing that drives my program. The one thing you'll see with my programming is super simple. My movement stuff looks complex. I promise you it's not. It's so simple. But one thing you also see is they're going to get maximal intent. And if they don't give it to me, I'm going to take it. Like, that's the one thing I'm never going to settle. I don't need a $10 to see bar speed. I know what that looks like. I know how to get it from them. And I'm going to coach positions and get that from them. And that's non-negotiable. And so what I find, if you can simplify your programming and demand great effort and intent, it's hard not to get better with whatever you're doing if your rep schemes and your loading is proper.
Yeah. One of the principles you talked about with Jay DeMayo was that position dictates the loads. And I would just love to hear you elaborate on that, how that principle really applies with the athletes that you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, joint position does dictate load because, I mean, like I use this pretty simple, really simple analogy and example. So if you go to lean down and pick up a piece of bread, you're just going to reach down and grab it, right? But if you're going to go and you're going to pick up or do a lunge and you reach down, you're going to brace a whole lot harder. You're going to be a lot more engaged, and you're going to fire a little bit different. So you're going to pick up that dumbbell differently. And so when you look at sport, right, and you talk about your forces and you talk about mass momentum and controlling your body, if you can't be strong in different joint positions under the load, which is forces from whichever direction you're moving, you're going to really struggle with that. And so I try to simplify as much as I possibly can. We do stuff that looks really ugly and funky, and I don't care what people think, because when they get in the game and they go in those positions where they're going run out of bounds and they hit that jump stop and they slide to that position and knee starts to slide on their toe, we've been there. And one thing you hear me say is, how can you know they're safe there if you never trained them there? And that's one thing. We're going to get in every position. We're going to press up. We're going to press out. We're going to press back. We're going to do all the basics, but we're going to prepare the tissue and fascia to be ready to move multidimensionally and also be able to handle the load they're going to go through. Hope that answered your question. I think I did.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then, sorry, Sean, I got some more questions before you jump in here.
Have at it, dude. Have at it, dude.
Yeah, so I saw you post online about some of the body comp stuff you've done with your basketball players. How are you measuring that stuff? What have you seen? What are you doing besides training? Like, are you talking to them about nutrition and how that affects the body comp? Tell us a little bit about the way you're going about measuring body comp with your athletes and how they're receptive to it.
Yeah. So we do, over my career, I've done DEXA, I've done skin fold. We do the scale. A lot of what we do is as simple as it may sound, is pictures. Like,
Okay.
hey, like, yo, man, you're down 2%. He's like, cool, I still look fat. So I'm like, no, okay, let me show you some pictures. Let me show you some measurements. And yeah, I do nutrition in a different way. Some people are like these food people. You're going to eat this, 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 this. I'm like, all right, man, this is what we're going to do. We'll come in here, tell me what you like. All right, let's put carbs, fats, proteins, veggies, fruits in the list. Okay, cool. All right. I'm not giving you a nutrition plan. This is what you tell me you like. This is what I want you to eat. This is how much I want you to eat of that. Okay. And I said, now let's have this deal. I said, one day the boss will stop bossing for you someday. And you're gonna have to go into these business meetings and eat these meals. And you're like, I don't know what the hell this is. So I want you to try one new food a month. Just try to expand your palate a little bit. And that's how I do nutrition. It's so simple. I'm from Louisiana. I believe food is cultural. So like if you give me some bland dry fish, it ain't happening. I need my Cajun seasoning. I need it to be Creoled up. And I attack food from that angle. So if I have a kid who's from the South, we're gonna find foods that remind you of home. Or if I have kids from else, we do it that way. It's pretty simple. I don't try to overcomplicate anything. Um, you'll hear people say savagely simple, super, super simple. Um, I have a cell phone that I use for the guys to contact me, and they send all their meals to that phone. So I say anything you consume, send me a picture of it. Nothing you send me is gonna make me mad. Nothing you send me I haven't seen before. So it's a very open, honest relationship where they can feel comfortable to really be themselves and make mistakes and understand like, hey, if our goal was to lose 15 pounds and you gain 3 pounds the next week, Mike's not gonna be mad at you. We'll go work through it. And I think that's how I get it with my guys. And I'll be completely honest with you. Like some people focus on body comp. Yo, I don't focus on it at all. I just educate them. And I look up in like 8 months, like, oh, shoot, they changed. I promise you it's not something. I'm more concerned about being able to handle forces and be able to land and jump properly than I am hit body comp. Now, all that stuff goes together. I'm not ignoring it, but my focus isn't that.
Yeah, I would imagine when you're showing the before and after pictures from 8 months prior, and they look a lot better, a lot more leaned out, and maybe a little bit heavier with that better muscle on them, that's going to gain you some buy-in with the players. Have you found some of that too?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'll give you examples. When I was at Southern Miss, I came in, first 8 weeks, coach is like, do whatever you want. I grinded those dudes. I mean, we were in the same pit. We were lifting like 5-6 days a week. 8 weeks, they'll see the pictures. Whatever you wanted me to do, I'll do. They had the little suntans. I've been out the sand pit. They looked great. They felt good. Yeah, I mean, that's where you get buy-in from. When people can see and feel tangible results, they'll come back for more. So I found the kids that don't like the weight room don't feel like they're getting better. So sometimes you have to trick them into getting strong or make them think they're something they're not so you can get the results from them later on.
I like that a lot. I wrote down that nutrition is cultural piece because that's something I haven't really it always made sense to me. I never really heard someone actually like say it out loud. But that's really cool because looking at it from when I was trying to teach men's basketball players how to eat, I always just said, hey guys, just eat some vegetable. I don't care what vegetable, just eat some vegetable. But sitting down with them, talking about what they have eaten in the past, what mom made, like how can we relate it more to home? That is a piece that I think is very overlooked by a lot of people. I'm really happy you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, so one of my biggest victories here at Stanford was during the COVID time where the guys were home. We did like a nutrition Zoom. And I got to hear from our parents. And they're like, we don't know what you did to our kids, but they're eating stuff we never thought they'd eat before. And I let them choose. It was that simple. I didn't do anything at all. I let them choose. And like sometimes less is more.
Mm-hmm. I love it. That's really, really cool. It's a really good tool for your athletes, especially like you said, later in life when the ball stops down.
Yeah.
Super cool.
For sure.
Will, do you have anything?
No, go ahead, man.
I was just gonna touch on a little bit with your time with Coach Hatch and how you said how impactful of a man he was to you. Obviously, you've had a lot of mentors along the way, but singling out Coach Hatch, how was that time with you? Because in my experience, a lot of people have not really gone from private sector coaching to collegiate or team strength and conditioning and look back and saying that private sector position is like one of the things that made them who they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think early on in your career, everyone's labeled as having a talent or a gift while they get that job. You know somebody that, but there's like something you do good, right? So me coming from him, people saw me as a guy who really could teach the O-lifts and get them done at a very, very, very high level. And so he taught me that. Well, as he taught me that, he taught me so much other stuff. Because if you're teaching O-lifts to 12-year-old kids, you got to have some very, very good communication skills. You have to have some very, very, very unique ways. And you have to be able to teach one concept 6 or 7 different ways. And he would do that. And this is gonna be sour weird, but I've told the story before. Like there was this, like when I first met the Coach Hatches, and he asked me to coach, and so I have like this line of groups of kids to coach, and I just wasn't talking. He was like, "All right, what's your go do that? Come coach this broomstick in here. Use your voice." He literally made me like I learned how to use my voice with a broomstick. Like, is it crazy? Absolutely, but like. When I look at it years now, like if anyone sees me on the floor now, you would never think I'd have I had problems opening my mouth and using my voice. But like those lessons, those little things that he taught me, like, you know, this wasn't like one-on-one coaching. You're talking about, 10 platforms lined up, and you try to teach 8 people how to clean and jerk and snatch in one day. You got to be very methodical and very, very, very detailed when you're walking by. I tell my interns, you got to stick and move when you coach. What's the big thing you got to fix? People like, if you just move your ankles here 6 degrees here and your hips there. No, there's always a couple big things here that's going to make everything else line up. You learn how to find your quick hitters real quick. So you got to stick and move in the weight room with me. Everybody gets a cue. Roll through, come back, give it to them again, roll through, give it back to them. If they can't get it, regress them, then move them forward when they get ready. So the data environment was very fast paced. You're talking about, there were some days like, if I'm thinking, right, we had like maybe 16 platforms in there. Imagine having 16 platforms too deep and everyone's on a different program. Because you have every day had a different emphasis. So somebody was on Monday, which may have been your big O-lift day. So I may have been on Tuesday, which is the big squat day. So you got to be able to stick and move, have your head on a swivel, and that is where I earned my stripes of being able to see a lot at one time, in my opinion. But then the bigger piece is, when you finish that 3.5, 4 hours of coaching and sit in the office with someone with 40 years of experience, and he's talking about things that I had at the time I thought were like groundbreaking. Like, man, what is he talking about? And to get that feedback about how I did today, how to implement this. If this happens next time, you should do this. It's really made my experience now to where I don't feel like I need a whole lot of time to teach stuff and get it done, because I know I can get it done at a very, very high level. I hear about the O-lifts all the time. They're not worth the value because they're too hard to teach. Sean, I don't know if you were there when I taught field hockey how to clean, snatch, and jerk. Remember, it was like my first day. First day of week 2, we clean, snatch, jerk, front squat, military press, lunge, and hinge every day for 4 days. And then 2 weeks, we were good to go. Now, was the loads heavy? No. But I had time. That was my GPP work. And would I do that now? I probably wouldn't do that now. But the fact it's not too hard if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and you're using the Olympic lifts with the basketball guys that you're working with. Can you just talk about some of the strategies you use? Are you cleaning, jerking, and snatching them, and just maybe some of the progressions you've used? Like Sean mentioned earlier, all 3 of us have worked with basketball at some point in our career. I've tried it with them. Like some guys pick things up, some guys don't. And right now we're not doing any just because of like the diversity of like training age and experience and the length of the guys. And it's just logistically is not very easy for us. And we only have 20 minutes some days. Could you just talk about some of the strategies you use when you're teaching the Olympic lifts? Is it only off-season stuff? Is it both off-season and in-season? Just love to hear your thoughts on all that.
Yeah. So, first of all, when I implement implement Olympic lifts when I get to a team. Like I said, with a while ago, I would do everything at one time, right? So what I do now is, if we're gonna clean, I spend the first 6 months only focused on the clean. Second 6 months only focused on the snatch. Now I may progress from half kneeling, dumbbell press to military press to jerk over 8 months, so that I make sure I have the mechanics and the positions to be able to handle that weight, that weight and that motion. But then we pull year round. We will clean pull, snatch pull year round. If you can't pull, you can't clean. I don't understand how people will clean and snatch and quit pulling. And they're like, oh, he can't get the weight. Well, he can't. If you can't pull it, you can't catch it. So the rule I grew up with when I was lifting was, if you can't front squat, if you can front squat, you should be able to clean it. And that was our rule. So we pulled 3 times, 4 times a week sometimes. And then if you're over 6'4", you go off of, I think, 3-inch blocks. If you're over like 6'6", 6'7", you're gonna go off 5-inch blocks. And so, and I've even got to the point now to, I don't care what position it is, as long as I'm getting that violent drive through the floor. You could be above the knee. I just want that violent drive. But what I do love is the force production, but also the force absorption of it, like triple extension, triple flexion, which is very, I think, underrated. People don't really respect it. So that's kind of my progression with the O lifts. It's pretty simple. Number 1, it's how to. Number 2 is how fast. Number 3 is how much. Most of the time, college athletes don't need the how much if they get in the how fast. And I think we get caught up in there. Like, so I'll have some kids who will they'll pull and they'll clean, and we'll just focus on that. And then over time, it's amazing how just watching bar speed and monitor that, they'll get much stronger. And then it just works out really well. I do a ton of joint mobilizations and tissue stuff to make sure we're flexible to do it. And I never put them in a position that they aren't prepared for. So we talked about joint position dictating of muscle function. If he can't get into a good front squat, he can't receive the bar properly. So he's kind of not going to like it because the movement feels unnatural. But when you can move cleanly and get in and out of your ankles, in and out of your hips, the movement feels much more natural. And so when things feel wrong, the guys don't want to do them. Usually when someone's good at something, they want to do it. So I find very, very simple progressions to get them there. The cool thing is, a lot of times what I'll do is we'll all pull, and then I'll start progressing 1 or 2 guys to the clean. And then the other guys see that guy, you're like, I want to do it too. And then it comes like a thing here, like, it happened here like 3 weeks ago. It finally hit. They're like, I want to clean too. And so like I had, all conference forward cleaning. One of the best defenders in the country is cleaning. Like, and like that's in my culture. So now when the young guys see that, they're like, man, I want to do it too. Like, no, you're not at that stage that you got to wait a little while to get there. And so now it's like something you get to do as you go through the program. It's like a prize. But I think there's so much value in the Olympic lifts that go beyond force production and force absorption. One thing I do that I think is maybe not unique, or maybe is unique, is I can tell how a kid learns by how they learn to clean. Is it kinesthetic? Is he like, does he need work? How does he learn? And I can say, Coach, hey, when you want to teach this guy something, if you say it to him, he's not gonna get it. But if you show it to him, he'll be able to get it. And so I can give coach feedback on how that person learns. Also, most kids who pull weak aren't very strong, or they're kind of soft. And so, we teach violent pulls. We teach that. And so it kind of gives me an idea of the aggression level and to see that kind of grow over time as well. Just some couple of intangible things.
Yeah, I love the part that you talked about, the force absorption portion of the cleans, because I think that's the most underrated point too, because I think the most important part of a clean that kind of gets overlooked is the ability to produce force into an object, only to have that object produce force right back into you in a millisecond, and being able to brace and absorb that force and then redirect that bar again. So yeah, like I'm a huge proponent of them. I haven't been able to be super successful with them with my basketball players. That's something that I really want to get back into at some point with them, maybe in the off season, and start teaching it again. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with your assessment of all that stuff.
the lifts are something that are near and dear to me because that's where I started. Now, don't get me wrong, the lifts are not the end all be all to it. We throw stuff, we sprint, we jump, we lift, we do it all. But I think any it's funny when people say, "Oh, I don't believe in that." This ain't about what you believe; it's about what works. So you can't tell me that a 20-pound medicine ball throws the same as a 275-pound clean. You just can't convince me of that. Now maybe I'm wrong, maybe the science says that it is, but the way I train, I'm not so much worried about what everyone's telling me to do as opposed to what I know works and what I've seen work in my career.
I like that. Have you used, and now I'm going to get into the sciencey things a little bit. Have you been looking at specific, whether it be force plate or any sort of force reduction KPIs when you are comparing your snatch pulls, clean pulls, catches, anything like that? Like, do you look at those KPIs and how they progress over freshman to senior year?
Yeah, so the one thing is I haven't had ability to have access to force plates until recently when I got here. So that is something I am actually currently looking into, adding into our program and trying to figure out how to use it properly. So a lot of stuff I've been doing is just like RSI and things of that nature, just kind of get an idea of how we're doing and where we are. But I am looking forward to having the force plates to give me a more complete view of what's going on with more detail.
So I know we're starting to wrap up a little bit on time. So I got one kind of last question on my part before Sean gets to his.
Yeah.
At the top of this, you mentioned about making mistakes and learning from your mistakes. Could you just share maybe one or two mistakes that you've made in the profession in the past that you've really learned from and made some strides to improve yourself on?
Yeah, I think one thing that my biggest mistake early on was trying to know everything. And like, hey, I know so and so and so. Nah. Now I'm like, yo, I don't know, but I'll find the answer. But I think I've done taken a unique approach to studying. So, every year I'll take something and study it. So I took 1 year and studied just speed development, and that's all I looked at. 1 year strength development, 1 year it was movement. Year before last it was energy system development, and I just took every day and took 30 to 40 minutes to just really dig into that particular subject matter. And that has given me the ability to kind of be a little more diverse in my approach and have a true understanding of what I'm doing, so I can get the results and elicit the responses that I'm looking for. The biggest mistake that I did early on was I didn't believe in myself. And you have to understand that you are enough, that you can get the job done. And it's not about knowing everything, but it's about stuff you do know, knowing it in and out, and being able to execute it at a high level.
Very well said. Very, very well said. Well, Mike, as the time's running down, we have one last question we'd like to ask everyone.
Yeah.
You've clearly had a lot of mentors. We've talked about a bunch of them, and they're very visible in your own coaching, programming, everything like that. And I hope that's a very good compliment, because I've tried to model a lot of my stuff that I see you do. But if you could recommend anyone else that we reach out to, any one specific person to get on our podcast, who would you recommend?
There's a guy, my former assistant at Towson, Aaron Draghi.
Okay. Yep. He's at Towson right now, right?
He's a director now. Dude is super smart. I mean, I'm not gonna sit back like that. I'm this guru. Every program I write, I probably sent to Cam Davidson and Aaron to rip apart so I can get some ideas about it. And I get great feedback from him, and I bounce ideas off him all the time. And extremely, I call him Dr. Draghi. He's so smart. I mean, dude, he's gonna be a rock star pretty soon.
I'm sure Cam was a great mentor. We had Cam on probably a couple months ago. He was awesome to talk to.
Yeah, we shared an office. It was a very, very lively environment.
Dude, that was such a fun office. You, me, Cam, Justin, Cassidy. Dude, that was such a great experience. Man, Mike, thank you so much for the time, dude. I know, like I said, we're on the road, so it was cool. It was cool we were able to sit down and get this done.
For sure. For anytime, man.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Thank you so much, man. Have a good night.
All right.
Take care.